Texas, 1878. A widow stands on an auction block, her number card shaking in frozen fingers. The auctioneer spits one word at the crowd, Barren. Men laugh. Someone offers $5, the price of a sick mule. Then a giant steps out of the shadows. 6'4", shoulders like a bull, a scar running down his face like lightning. He doesn't smile. He doesn't blink. He just says, $1. $1 for a woman the world called worthless. 8 years later, she'd give him 7 sons and bring an empire to its knees. Stay until the end and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The wind hit Clara Thornton like a fist. She pulled her thin shawl tighter, but it did nothing. The cold had already crawled into her bones hours ago. Number 12. That's what the card in her hand said. Not Clara, not Mrs. Thornton, just 12. Number 9, Pritchard hollered from the front. Betty Sullivan, 17, good Irish stock, knows her way around a kitchen. A girl stumbled forward, skinny, shaking, eyes red from crying. $20? A fat farmer yelled. 25 or 30. Clara watched the numbers climb. Of course they climbed. Betty was young. Betty could breed. That's all these men wanted. Fresh meat for their beds and sons for their fields. Betty sold for $37. She walked toward the fat farmer without looking back. Smart girl. Looking back only made it harder. Number 10. Dorothy Walsh, 31, widowed. The crowd thinned. Clara felt the cold sink deeper. 3 more women, then her. She thought about praying, decided against it. God hadn't listened in years. Why would he start now? Number 11, Catherine Price, 22. Healthy, good teeth. Good teeth, like a horse at auction. Clara almost laughed. Almost. Sold $29. 1 more. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She told herself it was the cold. Number 12. She stepped forward. The platform creaked under her worn boots. 50 faces stared up at her. Farmers, ranchers, drifters. Men with hungry eyes and empty beds. Pritchard squinted at his papers. Mrs. Clara Thornton, 29, widowed. He paused. Licked his lips. Previous marriage childless. Doctor confirmed she's barren. The word dropped like a stone into water. Silence first, then whispers, then laughter. Barren. A man in the front row spat tobacco juice onto the floor. Hell, what's the point of her then? Might as well buy a scarecrow, someone hollered. At least a scarecrow don't eat. More laughter, louder now. Clara didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't blink. Let them laugh. She'd survived worse than laughter. Starting bid, Pritchard said without enthusiasm. $15. Nothing. $10. Crickets. Come on, gentlemen. She can read. She can write. She can keep accounts. What good's accounts if she can't make babies? The tobacco spitter again. My hound dog's more useful, and I don't gotta feed her 3 meals a day. The crowd roared. Clara kept her chin up. Her eyes forward, her face stone. She'd learned that trick from Robert. Every time he raised his fist, she'd go somewhere else in her head. Somewhere he couldn't reach. Somewhere the pain couldn't follow. $5, a voice called out. I'll take her for 5. Clara's stomach dropped. She knew that voice. Not the man himself, but the type. Greasy. Eager. The kind of man who looked at women like they were things to be used up and thrown away. She found him in the crowd, heavy set, small eyes, stained shirt, grinning at her like she was already his. $5, Pritchard repeated. Do I hear 6? Silence. Going once. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. Going twice. Not him. Please. Anyone but him. $1. Every head in that warehouse turned. A man stepped out of the shadows near the back wall. No, not a man. A mountain. 6'4" at least, with shoulders that blocked the lamplight behind him. His face was hard as granite split by a scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw. His eyes were gray, not soft gray, winter gray, the gray of ice forming on a river. "Did you say $1? Pritchard's voice cracked. "You deaf?" The giant didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. $1, take it or don't. The greasy bidder stepped forward. "Now hold on just a damn minute, I bid 5 fair and square." "Then you overpaid." "You can't just—" The giant turned his head, slowly, like a wolf noticing a rabbit. "You want to finish that sentence?" The greasy man's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. "That's what I thought." The giant looked back at Pritchard. $1. We done here." Pritchard's face had gone the color of old milk. "Mr. McAllister, sir, surely a man of your means could offer—" "I could." The giant McAllister cut him off cold. "I won't. $1 because this ain't a cattle sale and she ain't livestock. The dollar's a formality, nothing more." Clara stared at him. In 3 years of being treated like garbage, like property, like something less than human, no man had ever said anything like that. "But she's barren," someone yelled from the crowd. "What do you want with a barren woman?" McAllister's jaw tightened. "What I want ain't your concern." "Mr. McAllister." Pritchard tried again. "I really must insist." "Pritchard." McAllister's voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. Somehow, that made it more terrifying. "I've bought horses from you. Paid fair. Never complained. You really want to argue with me over $1? Pritchard swallowed hard. "No, sir. Sold. $1. To Mr. Jedediah McAllister." Clara felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. Sold. She was sold. To a man who looked like he could kill with his bare hands and wouldn't lose sleep over it. She should have been terrified. She wasn't. "Mrs. Thornton." She looked down. McAllister had crossed the warehouse floor and now stood at the base of her platform. Up close, he was even bigger. His coat alone cost more than everything she'd ever owned. "Sir?" "I have a carriage outside. 4 hours to my ranch. Warm. Food. But before we go, I want something clear between us." Clara waited. "I ain't a kind man." His voice was low, meant only for her. "Don't know how to be gentle. Had 2 wives. Neither could stand me. I work too much, talk too little. Most folks think I'm made of stone." He paused. "But I never raised my hand to a woman. Never will. Whatever else I am, I ain't that. Can you live with those terms?" Clara looked into those winter-gray eyes. No warmth there, no softness. But no cruelty either, just honesty raw and unpolished. "Yes," she said. "I can live with that." "Good." He held out his hand. "Let's go." She took it. His grip was warm despite the cold, calloused, strong, the hand of a man who'd worked every day of his life. Not like Robert's hands. Robert's hands had been soft hands that turned to fists after dark. "My name's Jed," he said as he helped her down. "Might as well use first names if we're getting married." "Clara?" "I know, I was listening." The carriage was warm, blankets, a basket of food. Clara forced herself to eat slowly, even though her stomach screamed for more. Jed sat across from her watching. "When'd you eat last?" he asked. "Yesterday. Bit of bread." His jaw tightened. "Agency was supposed to feed you." "They fed the ones who could pay extra." Silence. The carriage rocked over frozen ground. "You ain't what I expected," Jed said finally. "What'd you expect?" "Crying. Begging. Something." Clara set down the bread, met his eyes. "Mr. McAllister." "Jed." "Jed, I spent 3 years with a man who beat me whenever the whiskey told him to. I cried the first year, begged the second. By the third, I learned that crying and begging just made him hit harder. She kept her voice flat, factual. So I stopped. I'm done with crying. I'm done with begging. If that ain't what you wanted, you bought the wrong woman. Jed was quiet for a long moment. Your husband, he said slowly. He the reason you got no children. The doctor said my womb was twisted wrong, said I'd never conceive. Clara's hands curled into fists in her lap, but that doctor spent 3 minutes poking at me before making his grand announcement. He never asked why my husband was too drunk most nights to finish what he started. Never asked why the few times he did I bled after. Jed's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes, something dark. I ain't promising I can give you children, Clara continued. I don't know if I can, but my mother bore 8. My grandmother bore 10. Whatever was wrong in my marriage, I don't think it was me. And if you're wrong, if you really can't, then you wasted $1. Jed almost smiled. Almost. Fair enough, he said. Guess we'll find out. They rode in silence for an hour. The cold outside pressed against the carriage windows, but Clara barely felt it now. The blankets helped. The food helped more. Why me? She asked finally. Jed looked up from whatever thought had been occupying him. What? You could have had any woman in that warehouse. Young ones, pretty ones, ones who could definitely give you babies. Why'd you pick the barren widow everyone was laughing at? He didn't answer right away. His gaze drifted to the window, to the darkness rushing past. I watched them, he said quietly. One by one. Girls crying, women begging, everybody trying to look worth more than they were. He paused. Then I watched you. They called you cursed, called you worthless, laughed in your face, and you just stood there, chin up, eyes forward, like you were daring them to do their worst. Clara said nothing. That ain't desperation, Jed continued. That's spine, and I've learned to recognize spine when I see it. Spine don't give you sons. No, but it gives me a partner who won't fall apart the first time things get hard. He met her eyes. I ain't looking for a broodmare Clara. I'm looking for someone who can stand beside me. Everything else, we figure out as we go. The McAllister Ranch rose out of the darkness like a ghost. 3 stories. White walls. 14 windows glowing with firelight. Clara's breath caught. This is yours. Ours now. Jed's voice was flat. Too big for one man. Built it for a family that never came. The carriage stopped. Jed climbed out first, then turned to help her down. His hands on her waist were careful but impersonal. The front door opened before they reached it. A Chinese woman in her 50s stood in the doorway, face unreadable. Mrs. Chen, Jed said. This is Mrs. Thornton. We marry tomorrow. Blue room for tonight. Mrs. Chen's eyes swept over Clara. The worn dress, the thin frame, the stubborn set of her jaw. She nodded once and disappeared inside. She don't talk much, Jed said. Neither do you. Reckon that's why we get along. Clara barely slept that night. The bed was too soft. The room was too warm. The silence was too complete. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. Mrs. Jedediah McAllister. That's who she'd be. Wife to a man she'd known for 6 hours. Mistress of a house bigger than anything she'd ever dreamed. It should have felt like a fairy tale. It felt like a deal with the devil. But the devil's terms were better than the alternative. And Clara had stopped believing in fairy tales a long time ago. Morning came gray and cold. Clara dressed in her only good dress, worn at the cuffs, faded at the seams, and made her way downstairs. Jed was waiting in the front hall. Dark suit, fresh shave. He looked less like a rancher and more like a banker. Somehow, that made him more intimidating, not less. You sure about this? He asked. Clara thought about the auction block, the laughing men, the greasy bidder with his $5 offer. I'm sure. Then let's... The front door slammed open. A man stood in the doorway, Not as tall as Jed, but broader, expensive coat, polished boots, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. McAllister. The man spread his arms like they were old friends. Heard you went shopping yesterday. Bought yourself a bride from the auction house. Jed's whole body went rigid. Ashford. Get off my land. Now. Is that any way to greet a neighbor? The man Ashford stepped inside without invitation. His eyes found Clara on the stairs. Traveled over her slowly, deliberately. So this is her, the Barren one. He clicked his tongue. I expected better from you, Jed. Even desperate, you could have done better than damaged goods. Clara felt the words hit her like stones, but she didn't flinch, didn't look away. I said get out. Jed's voice had dropped to something dangerous. I'm going. Ashford held up his hands in mock surrender. Just wanted to meet the new Mrs. McAllister, see what kind of woman sells herself for $1. His smile sharpened. Word travels fast in this county, sweetheart. Everybody knows what you are, what you ain't worth. Ashford. Jed stepped forward. You got 3 seconds to walk out that door before I throw you through it. Ashford laughed. Still the same old Jed, all growl, no bite. He tipped his hat to Clara. Welcome to Texas, Mrs. McAllister. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again real soon. He left. The door clicked shut behind him. Silence. Clara descended the last few stairs. Who was that? Jed's hands were clenched at his sides. His jaw was tight enough to crack stone. Victor Ashford, he said through gritted teeth. Owns the bank in town. Been trying to get his hands on my land for 10 years. He turned to face her. He'll use you to get to me. Spread rumors. Dig up whatever past you got. Make your life hell if he thinks it'll break me. Clara absorbed this. Another enemy, another battle, another man who saw her as nothing but a weapon to be used. Let him try, she said quietly. Jed studied her for a long moment. You mean that? I survived Robert Thornton for 3 years. I survived that auction block. I survived being called cursed and barren and worthless by men who ain't fit to shine my boots. Clara lifted her chin. Victor Ashford wants to make my life hell. He can get in line. For the first time since she'd met him, Jed McAllister smiled. Really smiled. It transformed his face from granite to something almost human. Clara Thornton, he said, I think that $1 might have been the best money I ever spent. Clara McAllister, she corrected. If we're getting married today, might as well start using the right name. Jed offered his arm. Clara took it. And together they walked out into the bitter Texas morning to seal a bargain that would change both their lives forever. Neither of them knew it yet. But Victor Ashford was already planning his first move. The courthouse in San Antonio was small cold and smelled like dust and old paper. Judge Kincaid sat behind his desk, spectacles perched on his nose, looking at Clara and Jed like they were a math problem he couldn't quite solve. Jedediah McAllister, the judge said slowly. 3rd time at my desk for a marriage certificate. You collecting wives like cattle now. Just need the paperwork, William. And you. Kincaid turned his gaze to Clara. Mrs. Thornton is a widow from Virginia. Yes, sir. You understand what you're agreeing to. This man's buried one wife and lost another to a traveling salesman. Not exactly a promising track record. Clara felt Jed stiffen beside her. She spoke before he could. I understand I'm agreeing to a legal partnership with a man who's been honest about his faults from the first moment we met. That's more than my last husband ever gave me. Kincaid's eyebrows rose. Got some fire in you. Got some sense in me. There's a difference. The judge almost smiled. Almost. He dipped his pen in ink and began filling out the certificate. Jedediah McAllister, do you take this woman as your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Clara Thornton, do you take this man as your lawfully wedded husband? Clara looked at Jed. This stranger, This giant with winter eyes and a scarred face who'd paid $1 to save her from something worse. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the great state of Texas, I pronounce you man and wife. Kincaid set down his pen. You may kiss your bride. Neither of them moved. Or not, the judge muttered. Sign here, both of you. They signed. Clara's hand was steady. She'd signed away her life once before to Robert, and it had nearly killed her. This time felt different. This time she knew exactly what she was getting. Congratulations, Kincaid said dryly. Try not to end up back here for a fourth time, Jed. Outside, the winter sun did nothing to warm the air. Clara pulled her shawl tighter, the same thin shawl she'd worn at the auction. Jed noticed. We're stopping at the general store, he said. You need a proper coat. I don't need charity. It ain't charity, it's practical. You freeze to death, I'm out $1. Clara almost laughed. Almost. The general store was warm and crowded. Women in fine dresses browsed bolts of fabric while their husbands talked cattle prices near the counter. Every head turned when Jed walked in. Every conversation stopped. McAllister, the shopkeeper said nervously. What can I do for you? Winter coat. Women's. Whatever fits her. The shopkeeper looked at Clara. At her worn dress, her mended shawl. The calculating look in his eyes made her skin crawl. For your new wife. The word dripped with something ugly. For Mrs. McAllister. Yes. Whispers erupted behind them. Clara heard fragments. Auction bride. Barren. $1. Desperate. She kept her back straight, her chin up. A woman in green silk approached. Blonde. Beautiful. Eyes like a snake. Jed McAllister, the woman said sweetly. I heard the most delicious rumor this morning. Something about you buying a wife from that dreadful marriage auction. She turned to Clara, looking her up and down. Is this her, the one nobody wanted? Isabel. Jed's voice went cold. Mind your business. Oh, but this is my business. Everyone's business, really. Isabel smiled at Clara. I'm Isabel Ashford, Victor's sister. You met my brother this morning, I believe. Clara held the woman's gaze. I did. He was rude. Must run in the family. Isabel's smile froze. Careful, sweetheart. You're new here. You don't know how things work. I know enough. Clara stepped closer. Close enough to see the crack in Isabel's perfect composure. I know your brother wants my husband's land. I know you both think I'm some desperate creature you can use to get it. And I know you walked over here expecting me to cower. And... Isabel's voice had gone sharp. And you miscalculated. Silence stretched between them. The whole store was watching now. Isabel recovered first. We'll see how long that spine lasts, Mrs. McAllister. This county has a way of breaking people. She turned to Jed. Enjoy your bargain bride, Jedediah. I'm sure she'll run off just like the last one. She swept away, silk rustling. Clara realized she was shaking. Not from fear, from rage. You didn't have to do that, Jed said quietly. Yes, I did. He studied her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression, something that looked almost like respect. Pick out a coat, he said. Whatever you want. We're leaving in 10 minutes. Clara chose a simple wool coat. Dark blue, warm, practical. It cost more than Robert had spent on her in 8 years of marriage. When they left the store, Isabel Ashford was nowhere to be seen. But Clara could feel eyes on her back the whole way to the carriage. The war had begun. The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Clara watched the frozen landscape pass her mind, churning. Tell me about them, she said finally. Jed looked up. Who? The Ashfords. What they want. Why they hate you. Victor Ashford is a snake in a suit. Owns the bank. Made his money buying up land from folks who couldn't pay their debts. Been eyeing my ranch for 10 years. Why yours? Water. I control the best water source in 3 counties. Without it, half the ranches around here would dry up and blow away. Jed's jaw tightened. Victor's been waiting for me to fail, waiting for me to die without an heir so he can swoop in and take everything I built. And Isabel. Victor's weapon. She uses her looks to get close to men, find their weaknesses, report back to her brother. Jed's voice darkened. She tried it on me once, years ago, before Constance. I wasn't interested. So she hates you. She hates everyone who doesn't fall at her feet. You just made an enemy, Clara. I've had enemies before. Not like her. Isabel Ashford destroys people for sport. Spreads rumors. Turns neighbors against each other. She'll dig up everything about your past and parade it through every parlor in the county. Clara thought about Richmond. About the whispers that had followed her after Robert died. The accusations. The shame. Let her dig, Clara said quietly. I've got nothing to hide and nothing left to lose. Jed didn't respond. But when he looked at her, something in his eyes had changed. The ranch house felt different when they returned. Still too big, still too empty, but somehow less cold. Mrs. Chen met them at the door. Supper in 1 hour, Mr. McAllister. Mrs. McAllister. Mrs. McAllister, Clara's new name. Her new life. I want to see the house, Clara said. All of it. Jed raised an eyebrow. Now. Now. If I'm going to manage this household, I need to know what I'm managing. So he showed her. 14 rooms. Most of them empty, covered in dust sheets, waiting for a family that had never come. A kitchen big enough to feed 30. A library filled with books that had never been read. Parlors with furniture that had never been sat in. It's a mausoleum, Clara said bluntly. It's a house. No, a house has life in it. This is a monument to loneliness. She turned to face him. How long have you lived here alone? 6 years, since Constance left. And in 6 years you never thought to change anything. Open the curtains, use the rooms you're paying to heat. What would be the point? The point is that you're not dead yet, Jed McAllister. The point is that a man who builds a house like this wanted something more than empty rooms and cold dinners. The point is... She stopped herself, took a breath. I'm sorry. It's not my place. It is your place. Jed's voice was quiet. You're my wife now. This is your house as much as mine. If you want to change things, change them. Clara stared at him. You mean that... I don't say things I don't mean. She looked around the dusty room, at the covered furniture, the closed curtains, the years of neglect and solitude. All right, she said. But I'm warning you, when I'm done, you won't recognize this place. Good. Something flickered across Jed's face. I'm tired of recognizing it. That night, Clara lay awake in the blue room staring at the ceiling. Her wedding night. She was supposed to be in her husband's bed. She wasn't. Jed had shown her to the blue room without comment. Separate bedrooms, separate lives. A marriage of convenience, just like he'd promised. She should have been relieved. She wasn't sure what she felt. A knock at her door made her sit up. Come in. Jed stood in the doorway. Still dressed, still imposing, but something in his posture was different, uncertain. Can't sleep, he said. Neither can I. Mind if I... He gestured vaguely at the chair by the window. It's your house. It's our house. He sat down heavily. Clara, I need to say something and I need you to let me finish before you respond. Clara waited. I told you I ain't a kind man. That's true. But I left something out. He stared at his hands. I don't know how to be a husband. Not in the ways that matter. Catherine was too young. I scared her. Constance was too practical. She saw through me. Saw that underneath all this, he gestured at himself. There's nothing. Just a man who knows cattle and business, and not much else. Jed, let me finish. He took a breath. I paid $1 for you because I saw something in you. Strength, honesty, the kind of spine that doesn't break. But I didn't pay for your body, for your bed. That's not what this is. If you want to stay in this room forever, keep things between us strictly business. I'll respect that. I'll never ask for more than you're willing to give." Clara felt something crack inside her chest. The same wall she'd built to survive Robert, the same armor she'd worn at that auction. "And if I'm willing to give more?" she asked quietly. Jed's head came up. His eyes met hers. "Then, I'd want to know why." "Because you're the first man who's ever asked what I'm willing to give, instead of just taking it." Clara's voice was steady, but her heart was racing. "Because you paid $1 to prove I wasn't livestock. Because you stood up to Isabel Ashford for me this afternoon and didn't expect thanks. Because—" She stopped, swallowed. "Because I think I could learn to trust you, and I haven't trusted anyone in a very long time." Jed didn't move, didn't speak. For a long moment Clara thought she'd said too much. Then he stood, crossed the room, stopped in front of her bed. "I ain't gentle," he said roughly. "I don't know how to be soft. I don't need soft. I need honest. I'm honest." "I know." Clara held out her hand. "So be honest with me now. Do you want this?" Jed took her hand. His grip was warm, calloused, real. "More than I've wanted anything in years," he admitted. "Then stop talking and show me." He did. 3 weeks later, Clara stood in the main parlor, hands on her hips, surveying her work. The dust sheets were gone. The curtains were open. Sunlight, weak winter sunlight. But sunlight nonetheless filled the room for the first time in years. The furniture had been rearranged. Flowers sat in a vase on the mantel. Not hothouse flowers, just prairie wildflowers she'd found growing stubbornly despite the cold. "I don't recognize it." Jed stood in the doorway, his face unreadable. Clara's stomach tightened. "You don't like it?" "I didn't say that." He walked into the room, looking around slowly. "I said I don't recognize it. That ain't the same thing." "Then what is it?" He stopped beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "It looks like someone lives here," he said quietly. "It looks like a home." Clara let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. The changes weren't just cosmetic. She'd reorganized the household accounts, finding waste and inefficiency everywhere. Martha, the cook, was now preparing meals at proper times instead of whenever she felt like it. Mrs. Chen was cleaning rooms that actually needed cleaning instead of dusting the same surfaces over and over. The ranch hands had noticed too. They'd started coming to Clara with small questions: where to find supplies, how to fix this or that minor problem. At first, they'd been hesitant, unsure how to treat the new Mrs. McAllister. But Clara answered every question practically and directly, without condescension or unnecessary fuss. Word spread. The boss's new wife wasn't what they'd expected. "The men respect you," Dutch Brennan told her one morning. Jed's foreman was a weathered man in his 50s with honest eyes and calloused hands. "That ain't easy to earn around here." "I haven't done anything to earn it." "You treated them like people. That's more than most ranch wives bother with." Dutch hesitated. "Can I speak plain, Mrs. McAllister? I prefer it. I've known Jed 20 years, watched him build this place from nothing. Watched him bury one wife and lose another. He's a hard man, but he's a fair one. And in all those years, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Clara felt heat rise to her cheeks. "We've only been married 3 weeks. Don't matter. Some things you can see right away." Dutch tipped his hat. "Just thought you should know." He walked away, leaving Clara standing alone in the winter sun, her heart doing something strange and unfamiliar in her chest. That evening she found Jed in his office, poring over ledgers by lamplight. "Dutch says you look at me different," she said without preamble. Jed's pen stopped moving. "Dutch talks too much." "He talks just enough. Is it true?" He set down the pen, leaned back in his chair. Those winter gray eyes found hers. Clara, I've been looking at people my whole life, evaluating them, deciding if they're worth my time or my trust. Most of them aren't. He paused. You're different. I don't know why yet, but you are. Different good or different bad? Just different, like finding water in a desert. You don't question it. You just drink. Clara crossed the room, sat on the edge of his desk, close enough to touch. I'm starting to forget what it felt like to be afraid, she said quietly. 3 weeks ago, I was terrified every minute of every day. Now I wake up and I'm not. Is that good? I don't know. It's strange, like wearing someone else's clothes. They fit, but they're not mine yet. Jed reached out, took her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Give it time, he said. Good things take time. Clara wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But she'd learned a long time ago that good things didn't last. And she couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something that would test everything they were building. She was right. It started a week later. Small things at first. Whispers at church. Sidelong glances at the general store. Women who'd been polite to Clara suddenly crossing to the other side of the street when they saw her coming. Then the letter arrived. Clara found it on the front porch one morning, tucked under a rock to keep it from blowing away. No postmark, no return address, just her name written in elegant script, Mrs. McAllister. She opened it with shaking hands. I know what you did in Richmond. The letter read, I know about Robert. I know how he really died. Does your new husband know? Does anyone in Texas know what kind of woman they're welcoming into their homes? Sinners cannot hide from God's justice. Your past will find you. It always does. The letter was unsigned. Clara read it 3 times. Then she burned it in the fireplace and watched it turn to ash. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. Robert hadn't died from falling off a horse. That's what she'd told everyone. That's what the doctor had written on the death certificate, because doctors in Richmond didn't ask too many questions when prominent families were involved. But Clara knew the truth. Robert had come home drunk that night, drunker than usual. He'd found her packing a bag she'd finally worked up the courage to leave. He'd beaten her for that. Beaten her worse than ever before. And then he'd gone for his gun. Clara still remembered the moment. The cold metal against her temple. The whiskey on his breath. The certainty that she was going to die. She remembered what happened next too. The struggle. The gun going off. Robert's body hitting the floor. She'd spent 3 hours scrubbing his blood from the floorboards before she called for help. He fell from his horse, she'd told the doctor. Hit his head on a rock. The doctor had looked at the bruises on her face, the blood on her dress, the gun wound in Robert's chest that didn't look anything like a head injury, and then he'd written, accidental death, on the certificate and walked away. No one in Richmond had questioned it. Robert Thornton was a mean drunk who'd made enemies everywhere. His death was convenient for too many people. But someone knew. Someone had followed the trail from Virginia to Texas, and they were using it against her. Clara knew exactly who. You're quiet tonight. Jed looked up from his supper. Something wrong. Just tired. You're lying. Clara's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. What? You forget I've spent 40 years reading people. You've been jumpy all day. Won't meet my eyes. Burned something in the fireplace this morning that wasn't firewood. Jed set down his own fork. Tell me what's going on. Clara set down her fork too. I got a letter. Anonymous. Someone threatening to expose my past. What past? And there it was. The moment she'd been dreading. The moment when everything could fall apart. My husband didn't die falling from a horse. Clara's voice was barely above a whisper. He died because I shot him. He was going to kill me, Jed. He had a gun to my head. I fought him for it, and it went off and... She stopped, swallowed. The doctor covered it up, called it an accident, but it wasn't. I killed him. I killed my husband. Silence. Clara couldn't look at Jed. Couldn't bear to see the disgust, the horror, the realization that he'd married a murderer. Did he deserve it? Her head snapped up. What? Jed's expression hadn't changed. Those winter gray eyes were steady on her face. I asked if he deserved it. The man who beat you, who hurt you, who put a gun to your head. Did he deserve to die? Clara's voice cracked. I don't know. Maybe. Yes. I think. Yes. Then I don't care. You don't. Clara. Jed leaned forward. I've killed men. In the war. After the war. Men who were trying to kill me. Men who were trying to take what was mine. I've never lost a minute's sleep over any of them. His voice was hard as iron. You survived. You did what you had to do to survive. That ain't murder. That's justice. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. She couldn't stop them. But the letter someone knows. Someone wants to scare you. Probably Ashford using information his sister dug up. Jed's jaw tightened. Let them try to use it. Let them tell the whole county. You think anyone around here is going to condemn a woman for shooting a man who was about to kill her? You don't know that. I know this county. I know these people. And I know you, Clara McAllister. He stood, crossed to her side of the table, lifted her chin with gentle fingers. You're not a murderer. You're a survivor. And I'll be damned if I let Victor Ashford or anyone else make you feel ashamed of surviving. Clara broke. All the walls she'd built, all the armor she'd worn, all the years of pretending she was fine, she was strong, she didn't need anyone. It crumbled. Jed caught her, held her while she sobbed, said nothing because there was nothing to say. When the tears finally stopped, Clara pulled back and looked at him. Why? She asked. Why don't you care what I did? Because I see you. His thumb brushed a tear from her cheek. Not your past. Not your mistakes. You. The woman who stood on that auction block and didn't break. The woman who faced down Isabel Ashford without flinching. The woman who turned my empty house into a home in 3 weeks. He paused. You want to know why I look at you different? That's why. Because you're the first person I've ever met who makes me think maybe I'm not as broken as I thought. Clara kissed him. Not soft, not tentative. Fierce and desperate and full of everything she couldn't put into words. Jed kissed her back, and for the first time in her life, Clara Thornton, Clara McAllister, felt something she'd never felt before. Safe. Completely, utterly safe. But safety was an illusion, and Victor Ashford was just getting started. 2 days later, Clara missed her monthly blood. She waited a week, then 2. It didn't come. She stood in the bedroom she now shared with Jed, her hand pressed against her stomach, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. It couldn't be. The doctors had said. Everyone had said. She was barren, cursed, worthless. But her body was telling a different story. She found Jed in the stables talking to Dutch about the spring cattle drive. He looked up when she approached, and something in her expression made him dismiss the foreman with a wave. What's wrong? Clara took his hand, pressed it against her stomach. Nothing's wrong, she said, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she smiled without any shadow behind it. Nothing's wrong at all. Jed stared at her, at his hand on her belly, at the tears streaming down her face. You don't mean... I think so. I'm not sure yet, but I think... He pulled her into his arms so fast it knocked the breath out of her. Clara. His voice was rough, breaking. Clara, if you're telling me what I think you're telling me, I'm late, 6 weeks late. I've been tired, sick in the mornings, and She pulled back to look at his face. I think the doctor in Richmond was wrong, Jed. I think I'm going to have your baby. Jedediah McAllister. The man the whole county called heartless, the man who'd buried one wife and lost another, the man who'd paid $1 for a woman everyone said was cursed. That man fell to his knees in the dirt of his own stable and wept. Clara held him. The barren woman held the broken man. And somewhere inside her, impossibly miraculously, a new life was beginning. Their first child, the first of 7. But that part of the story was yet to come. Dr. Samuel Whitfield arrived from San Antonio 3 days later. He was a thin man with kind eyes and steady hands. Nothing like the cold doctor in Richmond who'd condemned Clara with 3 minutes of examination and a lifetime of judgment. "Mrs. McAllister," he said after finishing his examination, "I can confirm that you are indeed with child, approximately 8 weeks along by my estimation." Clara's hand found Jed's, squeezed hard. "The doctor in Richmond said I was barren. He said my womb was twisted wrong." Dr. Whitfield's expression tightened. "I've heard that diagnosis before. It's often given to women whose husbands are the real problem if you take my meaning. There's nothing wrong with your womb, Mrs. McAllister. Nothing at all." Jed made a sound low in his throat, something between a laugh and a sob. "She's healthy?" he asked. "The baby's healthy, as far as I can tell. But I won't lie to you." Dr. Whitfield's voice turned serious. "Mrs. McAllister is 29, not young for a first pregnancy. There are risks. She'll need to rest, eat well, avoid stress." "Avoid stress." Clara laughed bitterly. "In this county, with the Ashfords spreading rumors about me every chance they get. I'm aware of the situation." The doctor began packing his bag. "I'm also aware that Victor Ashford is a snake who's destroyed half the families in this territory. Don't let him destroy yours, Mrs. McAllister. This baby is a miracle. Protect it." After he left, Jed stood at the window staring at nothing. "A miracle," he said quietly. That's what he called it. "Do you believe in miracles?" I didn't. He turned to face her. "Now I'm not so sure." Clara crossed the room, took his face in her hands. "I need you to promise me something." "Anything. Whatever happens. Whatever the Ashfords do. Whatever the town says. Whatever rumors they spread. Don't let it make you hard again. Don't let them turn you back into the man you were before I came." Jed's jaw tightened. "Clara, promise me." "I promise." He pulled her close. "But I'm also promising you this: anyone who tries to hurt you or this baby will answer to me. And they won't like how I ask questions." The rumors started within a week. Clara heard them first at church. Whispers behind gloved hands, sidelong glances, the words barren and miracle and impossible floating through the air like poison. "Did you hear the auction bride is claiming she's pregnant? Impossible. Everyone knows she's barren. Maybe it's not his baby. Maybe she was already pregnant when he bought her. That's why she only cost $1. Damaged goods." Clara sat in the pew, her back straight, her face calm. Jed sat beside her, radiating fury. "I can hear them," he growled. "Let them talk." "I won't." "Jed." Clara's hand found his under the cover of her skirt. "They want a reaction. They want you to explode so they can say you're unhinged. Don't give them that satisfaction." The sermon ended. People filed out. Most of them avoided looking at Clara directly. A few of the women she'd been friendly with suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. Only one person approached them. Susan Whitmore, the judge's wife. A woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. "Mrs. McAllister." Susan took Clara's hands warmly. "I heard the news. Congratulations." Clara blinked. You're congratulating me? Why wouldn't I? A baby is a blessing." Susan's voice carried deliberately, loud enough for the gossips to hear. "My own mother was told she'd never conceive. She had 7 children. Doctors don't know everything." The whispers faltered, stopped. "Thank you," Clara said. Her voice cracked. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. Call me Susan, and don't thank me." The older woman's eyes hardened. I've watched the Ashfords poison this community for 20 years. It's about time someone stood up to them. She glanced at Jed. You married well, Mr. McAllister. Don't let them take that from you. She walked away, leaving a wake of stunned silence. But Susan Whitmore's support wasn't enough to stop the tide. The letter arrived 2 days later, this time addressed to Jed. Clara found him in his office, the paper crumpled in his fist, his face white with rage. What does it say? He handed it to her without a word. Dear Mr. McAllister, Clara read aloud. It has come to our attention that your wife is a murderer. She killed her first husband in Richmond, Virginia in 1875. The death was ruled accidental, but we have evidence that suggests otherwise. Unless you wish this information to become public, we suggest you visit the First Bank of San Antonio at your earliest convenience. Mr. Ashford would be happy to discuss terms. Blackmail. Victor Ashford was blackmailing them. He can't prove anything, Clara said. Her voice was steady. Her hands were not. The death certificate says accidental. The doctor in Richmond. Doctors can be paid. Certificates can be questioned. Jed stood abruptly. I'm going to kill him. No. Clara? No. She grabbed his arm. That's exactly what he wants. You kill him, you hang for murder, and he wins everything. The ranch, the land, all of it. Then what we pay him, let him bleed us dry. We fight. Clara's chin lifted. Not with guns, with the truth. What truth? That Robert Thornton was a monster who beat his wife and put a gun to her head. That I defended myself. That any person in this county who's ever been hurt by someone stronger would have done the same thing. Jed stared at her. You want to go public. Tell everyone what happened. I want to take away his weapon. He can only use my secret against me if it stays secret. Once everyone knows he's got nothing. They'll judge you. Some will, others won't. Clara took a breath. Susan Whitmore was married to a man who hit her, before Judge Kincaid. She's never told anyone, but I saw the way she looked at me. She knows, and she's not the only one. The plan was insane, suicidal, exactly the kind of thing that could destroy them both. Jed looked at his wife, at her determined face, at the slight curve of her belly where their child was growing. All right, he said finally. We do it your way. But if it doesn't work, we leave. Start over somewhere else. But I'm tired of running, Jed. I'm tired of hiding. I want to stand in the light for once, even if it burns. Sunday morning. The church was packed. Word had spread that something was happening, though no one knew exactly what. Clara stood in the front pew. Jed stood beside her. When the sermon ended, she raised her hand. Pastor Williams looked startled. Mrs. McAllister, I'd like to address the congregation, Pastor, if you'll allow it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The pastor hesitated, then nodded. Clara walked to the front of the church, turned to face the sea of faces, some curious, some hostile, some merely confused. Most of you know me as the auction bride, she began. The Barren woman Jedediah McAllister bought for $1. Some of you have heard rumors about my past. I'm here today to tell you the truth. Silence. Absolute silence. My first husband, Robert Thornton, beat me for 3 years. He broke my arm twice. He cracked my ribs. He told me I was worthless, barren, cursed, and on the night he died he held a gun to my head and told me he was going to kill me. Someone gasped. I fought him for that gun. It went off. He died. Clara's voice didn't waver. The doctor in Richmond ruled it accidental, but I'm telling you now, I killed my husband. I killed him to save my own life, and I'm not sorry. The church erupted, people shouting, women crying, men demanding answers. Through it all, Clara stood straight, her eyes fixed on the back wall, her heart pounding so hard she could barely hear. Murderer! Someone yelled. Self-defense! Someone else countered. She admitted it. She's a murderer. He was going to kill her. Pastor Williams raised his hands. Please, please, everyone calm down. I have a question. A voice cut through the chaos. Isabel Ashford, standing in her usual pew, her face twisted with triumph. If Mrs. McAllister is so innocent, why did she hide this for so long? Why didn't she tell anyone until she was caught? Clara turned to face her enemy. Because I was ashamed. Because I thought no one would believe me. Because men like your brother told me that women who fight back are worse than the men who hurt them. Your brother sent my husband a blackmail letter 3 days ago. He threatened to expose my past unless we paid him off. Clara reached into her pocket and pulled out the letter. Here's the proof. Victor Ashford tried to extort us. That's the real crime here. Isabel's face went white. The church exploded again. This time the anger wasn't directed at Clara. Ashford blackmail. That snake. I knew he was crooked, but this... Victor Ashford is a criminal. Clara felt Jed's hand on her back. Warm. Steady. You did it, he murmured. We'll see. Judge Kincaid stood up from his pew. The room fell silent. Mrs. McAllister, the judge said slowly, what you've described sounds like self-defense. The law recognizes a person's right to protect their own life, even if it means taking another's. I understand that, Your Honor. And Mr. Ashford's letter. If what you're saying is true, that's extortion, a serious crime. I'm aware. Kincaid looked at Isabel, who had gone from white to green. Miss Ashford, I think your brother and I need to have a conversation. Isabel fled the church without another word. The congregation buzzed with a new energy. Not all of it friendly, there were still people who looked at Clara with suspicion and disgust. But the tide had turned. Victor Ashford had overplayed his hand. After the service, a line of women formed to speak with Clara. Martha Henderson, the blacksmith's wife. My first husband was the same, I understand. Ruth Cooper, the schoolteacher. You're braver than I ever was. Even some of the women who'd been whispering about her came forward, shame-faced, mumbling apologies. I'm sorry I believed the rumors. I should have asked you directly instead of listening to Isabel. I've been where you were. I just never had the courage to fight back. Clara accepted each apology, each confession, each awkward handshake and teary embrace. When the last person left, she turned to Jed. Her legs were shaking. Her hands were trembling. The adrenaline that had carried her through was fading fast. Get me home, she whispered. Please, before I fall down. Jed caught her just as her knees gave out. The next few weeks were chaos. Victor Ashford was arrested for extortion. The evidence was overwhelming, not just the letter to Jed, but half a dozen other families came forward with similar stories. He'd been blackmailing people across the county for years. Clara's accusation had opened the floodgates. Isabel fled to Houston. The house she'd ruled like a queen stood empty. And Clara's pregnancy progressed week by week, her belly growing rounder while the snow outside began to melt. The doctor says the baby's healthy, she told Jed one evening. They were sitting in front of the fire, her feet in his lap, his hands absently rubbing her swollen ankles. Strong heartbeat, good position. And you? Are you healthy? Tired, sore, ready for this to be over. She smiled. But yes, healthy. Jed's hands stilled on her feet. I've been thinking. Dangerous. Hush. But he was almost smiling. I've been thinking about what happens after. After the baby comes. After things settle down. What about it? I want to do right by you, Clara. Not just as a husband, as a partner. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. This is a deed. To the south pasture. 500 acres. In your name. Clara sat up so fast she nearly kicked him. What? It's yours, not ours. Yours. along with the horse breeding operation once we start one. Jed's voice was rough. You've proven yourself 10 times over. You deserve something that belongs to you, something no one can take away. Jed, this is... She couldn't find words. This is insane. Women don't own land. Women don't... This woman does. He pressed the deed into her hands. I don't want you to ever feel trapped again, Clara. I don't want you to ever think you have to stay with me because you've got nowhere else to go. This land is your freedom, your choice. Whatever happens between us, you'll always have something of your own. Clara stared at the deed, at Jed's name and her name signed at the bottom, at 500 acres of Texas land that belonged to her. She started crying. Not quiet tears, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Jed pulled her into his arms. Clara, Clara, what's wrong? If you don't want it. I want it. She could barely speak through the tears. I want it so much it hurts. No one's ever Robert. Never. I've never had anything that was mine. Not ever. Not once in my whole life. Now you do. Now I do. She pulled back to look at his face. I love you, Jed McAllister. I know we said this wasn't about love. I know we said it was practical, just a partnership. But I love you. I can't help it. I tried not to, but I can't. Jed's face did something complicated, something vulnerable. I love you too, he said quietly. Knew it the moment you stood up in that church and told the whole county to go to hell. Maybe even before that. He kissed her forehead. Best dollar I ever spent. Best dollar anyone ever spent, Clara corrected. Can't argue with that. The baby came on a night in late May when the prairie was green with new growth and the stars were thick as cream in the sky. Clara's labor started at sunset. By midnight she was screaming. Something's wrong. Dr. Whitfield's face was grim. The baby's turned. Breech presentation. I need to try to turn it manually. Do it. Clara gripped Jed's hand so hard she felt bones creak. Do whatever you have to do. Just save my baby. I'll do my best, Mrs. McAllister. But I need you to understand this is dangerous. For you and the child. I don't care. Clara's voice was fierce through the pain. I don't care about me. Save my baby. Clara, Jed started. No. She turned her head to look at him. If it comes down to a choice, you tell him to save the baby. Promise me, Jed. Promise me. I won't. Promise me. The agony in her voice broke something in him. I promise, he whispered. But you're going to be fine. Both of you. You're going to be fine. What followed was the longest night of Jed McAllister's life. Clara screamed, bled, screamed again. Dr. Whitfield worked with grim concentration, his hands steady, even as his face grew more and more worried. Mrs. Chen brought hot water and clean cloths. Martha prayed in the corner, her lips moving silently. And Jed held his wife's hand and felt utterly, completely helpless. I can't, Clara gasped at one point. I can't do this. It hurts too much. I can't. You can. Jed leaned close, his forehead pressed against hers. You survived Robert. You survived that auction. You survived telling the whole county your darkest secret. You can survive this. You're the strongest person I've ever known, Clara McAllister. Don't you dare give up now. I'm so tired. I know you're tired, but our baby needs you to keep fighting. I need you to keep fighting. His voice cracked. Please, Clara. Please don't leave me. I won't. She squeezed his hand. I won't leave you, I promise. 3 more hours. 3 more hours of blood and screaming and prayers to a God that neither of them was sure was listening. And then, just as dawn was breaking, a cry, thin and high and furious. It's a boy! Dr. Whitfield's voice was exhausted but triumphant. A healthy baby boy. Jed's knees buckled. He would have fallen if the bedpost hadn't been there to catch him. "Clara." He grabbed his wife's hand. "Clara, did you hear that it's a boy? We have a son." Clara's eyes fluttered open. She was pale, so pale, but she was smiling. "Let me see him," she whispered. "Let me see my baby." Dr. Whitfield placed the squalling infant on Clara's chest, red-faced, wrinkled, the most beautiful thing Jed had ever seen. "He's perfect," Clara breathed. "Jed, look at him. He's perfect." "He's got your chin." Jed's voice was rough with tears he refused to shed. "Poor kid." Clara laughed. It was weak, exhausted, but it was real. "What are we going to call him?" Jed looked at his son, at the tiny fingers curling around Clara's thumb, at the new life they'd created together against all odds. "Thomas," he said, "after my father, if that's all right with you." "Thomas McAllister." Clara kissed the baby's downy head. "Welcome to the world, Thomas. You've got a lot to live up to." The barren woman held her firstborn son. The broken rancher held his wife. And somewhere in Texas, Victor Ashford sat in a jail cell, his empire crumbling, while the couple he'd tried to destroy built something he'd never understand. A family, a legacy, a love that had started with a single dollar and grown into something priceless. Thomas was 3 months old when Clara realized she was pregnant again. Already. Dr. Whitfield couldn't hide his surprise. "Mrs. McAllister, this is unusual. For a woman who was told she couldn't conceive, you seem to be remarkably fertile." "Is it dangerous?" Jed demanded. "After what happened with Thomas?" "It's too early to tell, but I'll be honest with you. 2 pregnancies this close together after a difficult first birth, there are risks." The doctor looked at Clara seriously. "You'll need to be careful, Mrs. McAllister. Very careful." Clara looked at Jed. At Thomas, sleeping in his cradle. At the life they'd built in this big empty house that wasn't empty anymore. "We'll be careful," she said, "but we won't be afraid." 9 months later, she gave birth to twin boys. William and James. Both healthy, both screaming, both absolutely perfect. 3 sons, Jed said wonderingly, holding William while Clara nursed James. 3 sons in 2 years. "Clara, what did you do to me?" "I believe you did this to me," Clara replied dryly. "If you want to stop, I suggest sleeping in the barn." "Never." He kissed her. She kissed him back. And somewhere in heaven, or wherever souls go when bodies wear out, the doctor in Richmond, who'd called Clara Thornton barren, was being proven spectacularly, magnificently wrong. The years moved fast after that. Too fast, Clara sometimes thought. One moment she was holding Thomas for the first time, and the next, he was 3 years old, chasing his twin brothers around the yard, while she balanced a 4th child on her hip. Samuel. Born in the spring of 1882. A quiet baby, with his father's gray eyes and his mother's stubborn chin. 4 sons, Dutch said one afternoon, watching the boys tumble over each other in the dirt. 4 healthy sons in 4 years. Boss, I've never seen anything like it. Jed stood beside his foreman, his face softer than it had been 5 years ago. Softer, but not weak. The ranch had thrived under his leadership, under Clara's partnership. "The doctor in Richmond said she was barren," Jed replied. "Said her womb was twisted wrong. Reckon that doctor was a damn fool." "Reckon he was." Clara appeared in the doorway, Samuel fussing in her arms. She looked tired. She was always tired now. 4 children under 5 would exhaust anyone. "Jed, we need to talk." Something in her voice made his stomach drop. "What's wrong?" "Inside, please." He followed her into the house, into their bedroom, away from curious ears. "Clara, you're scaring me." She sat on the edge of the bed, took a breath. "I'm pregnant again." Jed stared at her. Already Samuel's only 6 months old. "I know." Clara, the doctor said, I know what the doctor said. Her voice was sharp, scared. He said my body needs time to recover between pregnancies. He said having them too close together is dangerous. He said... Her voice broke. He said if I keep having babies like this, it could kill me. Jed felt the floor tilt beneath his feet. Then we stop. What? We stop. He crossed to her, took her hands. Clara, I don't care about having more children. I care about you. We've got 4 healthy sons. That's more than I ever dreamed of. If having another baby puts your life at risk, it's not that simple. Yes, it is. No, Jed, it isn't. Clara pulled her hands away. I'm already pregnant. The baby's already growing. The only way to stop would be to end the pregnancy, and I won't do that. I won't kill my own child. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to be careful. I'm asking you to let me take care of you. I'm asking... His voice cracked. I'm asking you not to die, Clara. I can't lose you. I can't. Clara looked at her husband. At this man who'd started as a stranger become a partner grown into her whole world. I won't die, she said quietly. I'm too stubborn to die. Promise me. I promise. But promises she'd learned didn't always hold. The 5th pregnancy was hard, harder than any of the others. Clara was sick constantly. She couldn't keep food down. She lost weight instead of gaining it. Dr. Whitfield came twice a week, his face growing more worried with each visit. Her body is exhausted, he told Jed privately. She's had 4 children in 4 years. Her system is depleted. If she doesn't rest, truly rest, I can't guarantee she'll survive the birth. Then make her rest. Have you met your wife? The doctor almost smiled. Clara McAllister doesn't rest. She manages the household. She oversees the breeding program. She raises 4 boys while pregnant with a 5th. The only way to make that woman rest is to tie her to the bed. Don't tempt me. But Clara refused to slow down. There was too much to do. Too many people depending on her. The ranch couldn't run without her management. The boys needed their mother. Jed needed his partner. I'll rest after the baby comes, she promised. Just let me get through this. You're killing yourself. I'm living my life. There's a difference. The argument went nowhere. It never did. Clara was too stubborn, and Jed was too worried to push harder. Then Victor Ashford got out of prison. The news reached the ranch on a cold morning in November. Clara was 7 months pregnant, huge and exhausted, trying to keep William from hitting James with a stick while Thomas demanded her attention and Samuel screamed in his cradle. Dutch brought the message himself. His face was grim. Ashford's out. Got released early for good behavior. Clara's blood went cold. How early? 2 years early. He was supposed to serve 5 for extortion. Governor commuted the sentence. The governor. Jed's voice was deadly quiet. The governor who Victor donated money to before the election, that governor. Reckon so. Clara sat down heavily. Her hands shook as she pressed them against her swollen belly. He'll come for us. Maybe not. Dutch tried. Man's lost everything. His bank, his reputation. His sister ran off to California. He's got nothing left. He's got hate, Clara said. He's got 5 years of sitting in a cell thinking about who put him there. And he's got nothing left to lose. She was right. The first sign was subtle. A fence cut on the north pasture. Could have been an accident. Could have been predators. Then 3 horses went missing. Valuable breeding stock. Worth thousands. Then the well on the east side was poisoned. They lost 6 head of cattle before they realized what had happened. It's him, Jed said grimly. He's picking us apart piece by piece. Can you prove it? No. He's too smart to leave evidence. Then what do we do? Jed's jaw tightened. We wait. We watch. And when he makes a mistake, we end this. But Victor Ashford didn't make mistakes. He made plans. The fire started on the coldest night of the year. Clara woke to screaming. Not the children, they were asleep in the nursery. This was different. Louder. More desperate. The stables. Someone was shouting outside. "The stables are on fire!" Jed was already out of bed, pulling on boots, grabbing his coat. "Stay here," he ordered. "Don't leave the house." "Jed?" "Stay here, Clara. The children need you." He was gone before she could argue. Clara stood at the window, her hand pressed against her belly, watching flames lick the sky. The stable. Their breeding operation. Everything they'd built together. She should have stayed in the house. She didn't. The fire was chaos. Ranch hands running everywhere, hauling buckets, trying to lead terrified horses out of the burning building. Clara saw Jed in the middle of it all, his face black with soot, his voice hoarse from shouting orders. "Get the mares out first, the foals are in the back. Boss, the roof's coming down. Then move faster." Clara grabbed a bucket, started hauling water. Her body screamed in protest, 7 months pregnant, exhausted, barely able to walk some days, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. This was her life. Her family's future. "Clara!" Jed spotted her through the smoke. "What the hell are you doing? I told you to stay inside. And let you lose everything we built. Not a chance. You're pregnant." "I'm not dead." She kept hauling. Bucket after bucket. Her arms burned. Her back screamed. The smoke made her cough until she thought her lungs would tear. They saved most of the horses. Lost 3. Lost the stable itself. Lost years of work and thousands of dollars. But that wasn't the worst part. Clara collapsed at dawn. One moment she was standing watching the smoking ruins, and the next her legs gave out, and she was on the ground clutching her stomach, feeling something wrong, something wet. "Clara!" Jed caught her before she hit the dirt. "Clara, what's— Oh God, no!" Blood. There was blood everywhere. "The baby!" Clara gasped. "Jed, the baby! Don't talk, save your strength." He was already carrying her toward the house. "Someone get Dr. Whitfield. Now, right now." "Jed, I can feel something wrong. The baby's not moving." "Jed, why isn't the baby moving?" "It's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just hold on, Clara. Hold on." She passed out before they reached the house. Clara woke in her bed. The room was dim, quiet, too quiet. "Jed." He was beside her instantly. His face was haggard, red-eyed. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "I'm here. I'm right here." "The baby." Jed's face crumpled. "No," Clara whispered. "No, no, no. I'm sorry." His voice broke. "I'm so sorry, Clara. The doctor tried everything. There was too much blood. The placenta, it separated. The baby. Our baby. Boy or girl?" Clara barely recognized her own voice. Was it a boy or a girl? A girl. Tears streamed down Jed's face. "A little girl. She was beautiful, Clara. She looked just like you." Clara screamed. Not words, just sound. Pure raw grief pouring out of her body like blood from a wound. Jed held her, let her scream, let her cry. Let her pound her fist against his chest until she was too weak to lift her arms. "I want to see her," Clara said finally. Her voice was destroyed. "I want to see my daughter." "Clara." "I want to see her." Jed brought the tiny bundle, wrapped in white cloth. So small, so still. Clara held her daughter for the first time. For the last time. "Eleanor," she whispered. "Her name is Eleanor, after my mother." "Eleanor McAllister," Jed repeated. "That's a beautiful name." "She would have had your eyes. I know she would have." Clara couldn't stop the tears. "I wanted to give you a daughter, Jed. I wanted her so badly." "I know. I wanted her too." They buried Eleanor on the hillside overlooking the ranch. A small grave, a small headstone. Eleanor Grace McAllister, December 1882. Too loved to forget. Clara didn't speak for 3 days after the funeral. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her hand pressed against her empty belly. Jed brought the boys to see her. Thomas, almost 5 now, didn't understand why Mama was so sad. William and James, 3 years old, cried because Mama was crying. Samuel, barely 1, just wanted to be held. "Mama's sick," Thomas announced solemnly. "But she'll get better. Mama always gets better." Clara looked at her sons. At these 4 miracles she'd already been given. "Yes," she said quietly. "Mama will get better." She had to, for them. Recovery was slow, painful. Not just her body, her heart. Dr. Whitfield warned her that another pregnancy could kill her. That her body was too damaged, too weak. That she'd been lucky to survive losing Eleanor. Clara didn't feel lucky. "No more children," the doctor said firmly. "I mean it, Mrs. McAllister. Your body cannot handle another pregnancy." "I understand." "Do you? Because I've seen women like you before. Women who think they're invincible. Women who think they can push through anything." He leaned forward. "You have 4 sons who need their mother. Don't make them orphans because you're too stubborn to listen to medical advice." Clara flinched. "That's not fair." "It's not supposed to be fair. It's supposed to keep you alive." She told Jed that night. Watched his face as she explained what the doctor had said. "No more children," he repeated. "Ever. Ever. Another pregnancy would likely kill me." Jed was quiet for a long moment. "Then we're done," he said finally. 4 sons is enough. 4 sons is more than enough. I'd rather have you alive with 4 children than dead trying to give me more." "You're not disappointed." "Disappointed." He pulled her close. "Clara, I married you for a partnership, not a breeding program. You've given me 4 healthy sons. You've given me a home. You've given me a life worth living. How could I possibly be disappointed? I wanted to give you more. You've given me everything." He kissed her forehead. "Everything that matters." But fate, it seemed, had other plans. 6 months after Eleanor's death, Clara realized her monthly blood hadn't come. She waited 2 weeks, then 3. It still didn't come. "No," she whispered to herself, pressing her hand against her stomach. "No, this isn't happening. This can't be happening." But it was. She was pregnant again. Clara told no one. Not Jed. Not the doctor. Not anyone. She hid the symptoms. Blamed her nausea on bad food. Blamed her exhaustion on grief. Blamed her growing belly on eating too much after months of not eating enough. For 3 months she kept the secret. Terrified. Desperate. Praying every night that the doctor was wrong, that she'd survive this, that she wouldn't leave her children motherless. Jed found out by accident. He came home early one afternoon and found Clara bent over the wash basin, vomiting violently. When she turned around, he saw what she'd been hiding. "How far along?" Clara couldn't meet his eyes. 4 months. 4 months. His voice was flat, controlled, the voice he used when he was too angry to trust himself. "You've been hiding this for 4 months. I was scared. You should have told me. I know. The doctor said another pregnancy could kill you. I know. And you didn't think I had the right to know that my wife might be dying. I'm not dying." Clara's voice cracked. "I'm not. I can't be. I won't leave our children, Jed. I won't leave you." "You don't get to decide that." For the first time since she'd known him, Jed raised his voice, really raised it. "You don't get to decide whether you live or die, Clara. That's not how this works. You could have told me 4 months ago and we could have what ended the pregnancy. I told you before, I won't do that. I won't kill my own child." "Then what? What's your plan? Hope for the best. Pray your body doesn't give out." "Yes," Clara shouted back. "That's exactly my plan, because I don't have any other options, Jed. I'm pregnant, and I'm going to have this baby, And either I'll survive or I won't, but I am not giving up." Silence crashed between them. Jed turned away. His shoulders were shaking. "I can't lose you," he said roughly. "I can't, Clara. You're the only person I've ever loved, the only person who's ever made me feel like I'm not just a machine that runs a ranch. If you die, I won't. You don't know that." "No, I don't." Clara crossed to him, touched his back. "But I know that I've survived everything life has thrown at me so far. I survived Robert. I survived that auction. I survived losing Eleanor. I'll survive this too." Jed turned around. His face was wet with tears. "Promise me." "I can't promise something I don't control." "Then promise me you'll fight. Promise me you won't give up no matter how bad it gets." "I promise." Clara took his face in her hands. "I promise I'll fight. I promise I'll do everything in my power to stay with you and our children. That's all I can give you, Jed. That's all anyone can give." He pulled her into his arms and held her like he was afraid she'd disappear. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too. If you die, I'll never forgive you." Clara almost laughed. Almost. "Then I'd better not die." Dr. Whitfield was furious when he found out. "I told you no more pregnancies. I specifically said—" "I know what you said. It happened anyway." "These things don't just happen, Mrs. McAllister." "With all due respect, Doctor, they clearly do." Clara kept her voice calm. "I'm not here to argue about how this happened. I'm here to ask you to help me survive it." The doctor sighed heavily. "I'll do everything I can, but I need you to understand the risks. You're 34 years old. You've had 5 pregnancies in 6 years, including one that nearly killed you. Your body is exhausted. Your heart is under strain. If something goes wrong during this birth, then you'll save my baby. Mrs. McAllister, that's my only instruction. If something goes wrong, you save the baby. Promise me." Dr. Whitfield looked at her for a long moment. "Your husband made me promise the opposite. He said if it comes down to a choice, save you. My husband doesn't get to make that decision. Neither do you. I'm the doctor. I make the medical decisions, and I refuse to promise either of you anything except that I'll do my best to save you both." It was the most she could ask for. The remaining 5 months were agony. Clara was confined to bed for the last 2, not by choice, by necessity. Her body simply couldn't handle being upright. She managed the household from her bedroom, gave instructions to Mrs. Chen, played with her boys when they came to visit, and waited. Just waited. Jed barely left her side. He conducted ranch business from a chair next to her bed, slept beside her every night, held her hand when the fear got too strong. "Tell me about our children," Clara said one night. "Tell me what they did today." "Thomas is convinced he's old enough to ride a real horse. He threw a tantrum when Dutch said no. He gets that stubbornness from you. He gets it from both of us." Jed smiled slightly. "William broke a window with a rock. Claimed it was James's fault. James claimed it was Samuel's fault. Samuel's 2 years old and can barely lift a rock, so I'm thinking they're all guilty." Clara laughed. It hurt, but she laughed. "And what about you? What did you do today?" "Worried about you. Worked a little. Worried about you some more." Jed's hand tightened on hers. "Clara, I need to tell you something." "What?" "If something happens to you." "Jed?" "Let me finish." His voice was rough. "If something happens to you, I want you to know that you changed everything for me. Everything. Before you, I was just a machine, making money, building an empire, going through the motions of being alive without actually living. You taught me what it means to have a partner, a family, a home." He paused. "You taught me how to love." Clara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. "I know, but I needed to say it, just in case." "Then I need to say something too." Clara turned to face him. "You saved me, Jed. You paid $1 for a woman everyone said was worthless, and you treated me like I was priceless. You gave me children when they said I was barren. You gave me land when they said women couldn't own property. You gave me a life I never dreamed I could have. Clara, if I die giving birth to this baby, I want you to know that these years with you have been worth everything. Every pain, every fear, every moment of uncertainty. I would do it all again. I would stand on that auction block 1,000 times if it meant finding you. Jed kissed her, long and deep and desperate. You're not dying, he said fiercely. I forbid it. You can't forbid death, Jed. Watch me. The baby came 3 weeks early. Clara's water broke at sunset. By midnight, she was screaming. Something's wrong, Dr. Whitfield said grimly. The baby's too big. She's not dilating fast enough. Do something, Jed demanded. I'm trying. The doctor's hands were shaking. Mrs. McAllister, I need you to push. Push as hard as you can. I can't, it hurts too much. You have to. The baby's in distress. If we don't get it out soon. Clara pushed, screamed, pushed again. Blood. So much blood. More than before. More than with Eleanor. She's hemorrhaging, the doctor shouted. I need more towels, more pressure. We're losing her. Clara? Jed grabbed her hand. Clara, stay with me. Don't you dare give up. Don't you dare. The baby, Clara gasped. Save the baby. I'm saving both of you. Dr. Whitfield was working frantically. Keep pushing, Mrs. McAllister. The head's crowning. One more push. One more. Clara gathered everything she had left, every ounce of strength, every drop of will, and pushed. The baby came in a rush of blood and fluid and screaming. It's a boy! Dr. Whitfield caught the infant. Another healthy boy. Clara! Jed's voice was desperate. Clara, can you hear me, Clara? But Clara couldn't answer. She was floating, drifting. The pain was gone. Everything was quiet and warm and peaceful. Stay with us, Mrs. McAllister. The doctor's voice seemed very far away. We're losing her. More pressure on the wound. Someone get... The voices faded. Clara saw light, warm golden light, and in that light, she saw a figure, small, delicate, reaching for her. Eleanor. My baby girl, Clara whispered. My Eleanor. The figure smiled, shook her head. Not yet, Mama. It's not time yet. But I'm so tired. I know, but they need you. Papa needs you. My brothers need you. Go back, Mama. I'll be here when it's really time. Eleanor, go back. Clara woke, gasping, her whole body on fire. She's back. Dr. Whitfield's voice was triumphant. She's back. Keep the pressure on that wound. We've got her. Clara. Jed's face swam into view, terrified, hopeful, streaming with tears. Clara, can you hear me? I saw her, Clara whispered. I saw Eleanor. She told me to come back. Jed let out a sob. Don't ever scare me like that again. Where's my baby? Where's my son? They placed the infant in her arms. Tiny. Perfect. Already nursing. What are you going to name him? Dr. Whitfield asked, exhausted but smiling. Clara looked at Jed. At this man who'd paid $1 for a woman everyone called worthless. At this man who'd given her everything. Daniel, she said. After Jed's father, Daniel McAllister. 5 sons. Against all odds. Against all predictions. Against everything the world had said about her. Clara Thornton, the barren woman. Mother of 5. And she wasn't finished yet. 2 years passed. Daniel grew from a screaming infant into a stubborn toddler who followed his brothers everywhere. The ranch prospered. The breeding program Clara had built became the finest in 3 counties. Life settled into something that almost resembled peace. Almost. "Mama, I don't want to go to school." Thomas stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, chin jutted forward, in that stubborn way that was pure McAllister. "I don't care what you want," Clara replied calmly. "You're 7 years old. You need an education." "Papa didn't go to school. He learned everything on the ranch." "Your papa also got shot twice before he was 20, and almost died of fever at 30. I'd prefer a different path for you." "But, Thomas." Clara knelt to meet her son's eyes. "Listen to me. Education is power. It's the one thing no one can take away from you. Not banks, not enemies, not anyone. You're going to learn to read and write and do mathematics, and someday you're going to thank me." "I already know how to read." "Then you'll learn to read better. Now get your coat. The wagon's leaving in 10 minutes. Thomas stomped off grumbling. Clara watched him go and felt her heart squeeze. 7 years old. Where had the time gone? "He's just like you," Jed said from the doorway. "Stubborn as a mule and twice as loud about it." "He's like both of us. God help his future wife." Jed crossed the kitchen and wrapped his arms around her from behind. His chin rested on top of her head. "You feel all right?" "I feel fine." "You've been tired lately." "I have 6 children. Of course I'm tired." "Clara." She turned in his arms. "What?" "You'd tell me if something was wrong." "I'd tell you." She kissed his cheek. "Now stop worrying and go do whatever it is ranchers do all day." "We count cows. It's very exciting." "I'm sure it is." He left and Clara sat down heavily at the kitchen table. She hadn't told him. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not until she was sure. But the signs were all there. The tiredness, the nausea, the missed monthly blood. She was pregnant again. Dr. Whitfield confirmed it a week later. "Mrs. McAllister," his voice was grave. "I thought we discussed this." "We did. I told you another pregnancy could kill you. You told me that before Daniel, too. I'm still here." "Barely." The doctor sat down across from her. "You nearly died on that table, Clara. Your heart stopped for almost a minute. I had to manually compress your chest to bring you back. You cannot keep doing this to your body." "I'm not doing anything. It's happening. There's a difference." "There are ways to prevent—" "I know what ways there are, and I won't use them." Clara's voice was firm. "I believe children are a gift from God. I won't refuse that gift no matter the cost. Even if the cost is your life. Even then." Dr. Whitfield rubbed his temples. "You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. I've been told. How does your husband feel about this?" Clara was quiet. "You haven't told him." "Not yet." "Clara, I'll tell him. I just need to find the right moment." "The right moment was 3 months ago when you first suspected." "The right moment was before the baby was too far along to—" He stopped himself. "I'm sorry. I know your beliefs. I respect them. But I'm asking you as your doctor, and as someone who cares about your family, tell your husband. Tonight. He deserves to know what he might be facing." Clara found Jed in the stables that evening, brushing down his favorite mare. "I need to tell you something." He looked up. Something in her face made him set down the brush immediately. "What's wrong?" "I'm pregnant." Jed went completely still. "How far along?" 3 months. 3 months. His voice was flat. Dangerous. "You've known for 3 months and you didn't tell me." "I wasn't sure at first. Then I was scared. Then I didn't know how—" "The doctor said you could die, Clara. He said your heart might not survive another birth, and you kept this from me for 3 months. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Jed's voice rose. "You're sorry. What if something had happened? What if you'd collapsed, and I didn't even know why? What if—" He broke off, turned away. His hands were shaking. "I was afraid," Clara said quietly. "Afraid of how you'd react. Afraid you'd be angry." I am angry. I know. I'm furious. I know. And I'm terrified. He turned back to face her. His eyes were wet. I'm so damn terrified, Clara. Every time you have a baby, I think it's going to be the last time I see you alive. Every time I prepare myself to be a widower, to explain to our children why Mama isn't coming back. Jed, let me finish. He crossed to her, took her hands. I love you more than I've ever loved anything in my life. More than this ranch. More than my own survival. If you die having this baby, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know how I'll keep going. You'll keep going for our children. That's not enough. It has to be. Clara squeezed his hands. Jed, I can't promise you I'll survive. I wish I could. But I can promise you that I'll fight with everything I have. I'll rest when the doctor tells me to. I'll follow every instruction. And I'll trust that God has a plan for us. What if God's plan is to take you from me? Then you'll raise our children to know how much I love them. How much I loved you. She touched his face. But I don't think that's the plan, Jed. I think we're going to be fine. You can't know that. No, but I can believe it. And sometimes belief is all we have. The pregnancy was hard. Harder than Daniel's. Harder than any of them. Clara was confined to bed by the 5th month. Her heart was weak. The doctor could hear it fluttering irregularly when he listened with his stethoscope. Her body was exhausted from 6 pregnancies in 8 years. But she fought. Every day, every hour, every minute. She fought to survive. To meet this baby. To stay with her family. And when the labor finally came, she was ready. This is it, Dr. Whitfield said grimly. This baby is coming whether we're ready or not. I'm ready. Are you sure? Because I need you to understand. I understand. Clara gripped Jed's hand. Whatever happens, you save the baby. Promise me. Clara. Promise me, Jed. He looked at her for a long moment. At this woman who'd come into his life with nothing but a carpetbag and had given him everything. I promise, he whispered. But you're going to be fine. You have to be fine. I will be. The labor was brutal. Hours of agony. Hours of pushing and screaming and praying. But this time, something was different. Clara could feel it. A strength she hadn't had with the other births. A determination that went beyond her own will. I can see the head, Dr. Whitfield said. One more push, Clara. Just one more. She pushed, and her 7th son came into the world screaming. It's a boy. The doctor laughed. Actually laughed with relief. A perfectly healthy boy. Clara fell back against the pillow sobbing, not from pain, from joy. Let me see him. Let me hold my baby. They placed the infant in her arms, tiny, perfect, already rooting for her breast. Hello, little one, Clara whispered. Hello, my last baby. Last. Jed's voice was rough with tears. You mean it? 7 sons. Clara looked at her husband. 7 sons in 8 years. The doctor in Richmond said I was barren, said I'd never conceive. And now I have 7 children. She laughed through her tears. I think I've proved my point. You've proved it 7 times over. Then yes, this is the last one. My body is done. Jed kissed her forehead. What are we naming him? Clara thought about it. About everything they'd been through. Everything they'd survived. Matthew, she said. It means gift from God. Because that's what he is. That's what all of them are. Matthew Samuel McAllister, born in the spring of 1886. The 7th and final child of Jedediah and Clara McAllister. The barren woman had given her husband 7 sons. The doctor in Richmond had been wrong about everything. The years after Matthew's birth were the happiest of Clara's life. With no more pregnancies to worry about, she threw herself into other things. The breeding program expanded. The ranch prospered. Her children grew from screaming infants into young men with opinions and ambitions of their own. Thomas the eldest had his father's head for business and his mother's spine. By 15, he was managing whole sections of the ranch. William and James, the twins, were trouble incarnate. They fought constantly, schemed together even more constantly, and drove everyone around them to distraction. Samuel was the quiet one. He read books while his brothers wrestled. He watched while others acted. Clara suspected he'd be the thinker of the family. Daniel was fearless. Too fearless. He broke 3 bones before his 10th birthday, and seemed determined to break more. And Matthew the baby was the peacemaker. The one who smoothed over arguments and found compromises. The one everyone trusted with their secrets. 7 sons, Clara said one evening, watching them all gathered around the dinner table. 7 completely different people. 7 completely loud people, Jed muttered. Is it possible to have a meal in this house without someone shouting, "Pass the potatoes!" William bellowed at James. I said no shouting, Jed snapped. Sorry, Papa. Clara hid her smile behind her napkin. Life was good. Better than good. Better than she'd ever dreamed possible. But shadows have a way of returning when you least expect them. Victor Ashford died in the winter of 1890. Clara heard about it from Susan Whitmore, who'd remained a steadfast friend over the years. Died in his sleep, Susan said. They found him in that boarding house he'd been living in since he got out of prison. No family at the funeral. No friends. Just the minister and the gravedigger. I should feel something, Clara said slowly. He tried to destroy us. He burned our stable. He almost killed my daughter. She paused. But I don't feel anything. Just empty. That's forgiveness, Clara. Or at least the beginning of it. I don't forgive him. You don't have to forgive him to let him go. Holding on to hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Susan patted her hand. Let him go, Clara. He's done hurting you. But Victor Ashford wasn't quite done. The letter arrived a week after his funeral. Addressed to Clara. No return address. What is it? Jed asked, watching her face go pale. It's from Victor, dated 2 days before he died. Clara's hands shook as she read. He says he has a confession to make, before he dies, before he faces judgment. What kind of confession? Clara kept reading. Her face went from pale to white. Clara, what does it say? He says the fire wasn't about the horses. It wasn't about the ranch. Her voice cracked. He says he paid someone to set that fire specifically because he knew I'd come out to help. He knew I was pregnant. He knew the stress could... She couldn't finish. Jed took the letter from her trembling hands, read it himself. His face turned to stone. Eleanor, he said quietly. He killed Eleanor. He didn't know it would cause a miscarriage. He just wanted to hurt me. Wanted to prove he could reach us even from prison. Clara's tears fell onto her skirt. Our daughter died because a bitter old man wanted revenge. I'll kill him. He's already dead, Jed. Then I'll dig him up and kill him again. Clara almost laughed. Almost. What do we do with this? Jed asked. Do we tell the children? Do we? We burn it. Clara took the letter back. We burn it and we never speak of it again. Victor Ashford has taken enough from us. He doesn't get to take our peace too. Not from the grave. She walked to the fireplace, threw the letter into the flames, watched it burn. Goodbye, Victor, she whispered. May God have mercy on your soul, because I never will. The fire consumed the paper. The confession turned to ash. And Clara McAllister closed that chapter of her life forever. The boys grew. The ranch grew with them. By 1895, Thomas was 20 years old and running most of the cattle operation. He'd married a school teacher named Elizabeth, and Clara was about to become a grandmother. You're too young to be a grandmother, Jed complained. I'm 46 years old. Like I said, too young. You're 61. Does that make you too old to be a grandfather? I'm exactly the right age to be a grandfather. Grandfathers are supposed to be distinguished and gray. Grandmothers are supposed to be... not you. Clara laughed. What am I supposed to be, though? Mine. Jed pulled her close. You're supposed to be mine. Always. I am yours. Always. He kissed her. 17 years of marriage, and he still kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. I love you, Clara McAllister. I love you too, Jed McAllister. Even when you're being ridiculous. I'm never ridiculous. I'm distinguished. You're something all right. Their first grandchild was born in the spring, a girl. Thomas and Elizabeth named her Eleanor after the aunt she'd never meet. Clara held her granddaughter for the first time and wept. She's perfect, she whispered. She's absolutely perfect. She looks like you, Thomas said. Same stubborn chin. That's not stubborn. That's determined. Same thing, Mama. Over the next few years, more grandchildren followed. The big house that had once been empty was now overflowing with noise and chaos and life. William married a rancher's daughter and started his own spread to the north. James surprised everyone by going to medical school, inspired, he said, by Dr. Whitfield's dedication to their family. Samuel became a lawyer. He moved to Austin and started fighting for workers' rights for fair wages, for the kind of justice Clara had never dared to hope for when she was young. Daniel took over the horse breeding program. He had his mother's eye for bloodlines and his father's stubbornness. And Matthew the peacemaker became a minister. He preached in a small church not far from the ranch, and every Sunday the whole family gathered to hear him speak about love and forgiveness and second chances. You did this, Jed told Clara one Sunday after services. You built this family, this legacy. We built it together. You built it. I just provided the raw materials. He smiled. And the money. Let's not forget the money. How could I forget? You remind me every chance you get. Someone has to. You're too humble. I'm not humble. I just know what matters. Clara looked at her sons, her daughters-in-law, her grandchildren, all gathered together, all healthy, all happy. This is what matters. Not the money, not the land, not the reputation. This. Jed took her hand. Best dollar I ever spent. You keep saying that. Because it's still true. In the winter of 1900, Jed fell ill. It started as a cough. Just a cough. Nothing serious. He was 76 years old. He'd had coughs before, but this one didn't go away. Pneumonia, Dr. James McAllister, their own son, said grimly after examining his father. His lungs are filling with fluid. At his age, with his history. Don't, Clara said sharply. Don't tell me he's going to die. He can't die. He's Jedediah McAllister. He doesn't die. Mama, no. Clara's voice cracked. I won't accept it. I won't. She stayed by his bed, day and night, held his hand, talked to him even when he was too weak to respond. You can't leave me, she whispered. You promised. You promised we'd grow old together. You're not allowed to break that promise, Jed. You're not allowed. Clara. His voice was barely audible, a rasp, a shadow of what it once was. I'm here. I'm right here. Best dollar? Don't talk. Save your strength. Best dollar I ever spent. He squeezed her hand weakly. You gave me everything, Clara. Everything I never knew. I wanted. I gave you what you gave me. A second chance. A real life. A family. 7 sons. 7 sons. And grandchildren. And a legacy that will outlast both of us. Jed's eyes found hers. Still gray. Still winter cold. But warmer now than they'd been the day they met. I'm tired, he whispered. I know. Rest. Will you be all right when I'm gone? I'll be devastated. I'll be lost. I'll probably cry for a year. Clara's tears fell onto their joined hands. But I'll survive. I always survive. You taught me that. You taught me I was worth more than what the world said I was worth. You were always worth more. I just saw it first. Rest now, Jed. I'll be here when you wake up." He smiled. That rare transforming smile that had changed his face from granite to something almost soft. "I know," he said. "You're always here. That's why I love you. I love you too. More than words. More than life. Not more than life." His hand tightened on hers. "Never more than life. You have to live, Clara. For our children. Our grandchildren. You have to keep building what we started." "I will. I promise." "Good." His eyes closed. "Good. I can rest now." Jedediah McAllister died peacefully in his sleep 3 days later with Clara's hand in his, and 7 sons gathered around his bed. He was 76 years old. He'd built an empire from nothing. He'd married a woman everyone called worthless and proved them all wrong. He'd fathered 7 children and lived to see grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He'd lived, really, truly lived. And at the end, that was all that mattered. Clara didn't cry at the funeral. She stood by his grave surrounded by family and felt something she hadn't expected: peace. "He's with Eleanor now," she said quietly. "Our daughter. He's with our daughter." "Mama." Thomas took her arm. "Are you all right?" I will be." Clara looked at her eldest son. "He asked me to keep building what we started. That's what I intend to do." "You don't have to do anything, Mama. You've done enough. You've done more than enough." "I'll decide when I've done enough." Clara almost smiled. "I'm a McAllister now. We don't know how to quit." She lived another 16 years. 16 years of watching her children thrive, watching her grandchildren grow, watching the ranch expand and the breeding program flourish, and the McAllister name become synonymous with excellence and integrity. She established a school for women, taught them reading and writing and mathematics and the practical skills that had saved her own life. Hundreds of women passed through that school over the years. Hundreds of women who might have been sold at auction or trapped in terrible marriages found another path because Clara McAllister showed them it was possible. "Why do you do it?" a young woman asked her once. "Why spend so much time helping strangers?" "Because someone helped me once," Clara replied. "A man I didn't know paid $1 to save me from a life I couldn't bear. He didn't know me, didn't owe me anything. He just saw a woman who needed a chance and he gave her one. What happened to him? I married him, had 7 sons with him, loved him for 22 years until the day he died." Clara smiled. "And now I'm trying to pay back that debt, one woman at a time." Clara Thornton McAllister died on a spring morning in 1916. She was 72 years old. She died in the same bed where she'd given birth to 7 children. Surrounded by those children, now grown men with families of their own. Surrounded by grandchildren and great-grandchildren and a love so vast it filled the whole house. "Mama." Matthew, the youngest, held her hand. "Can you hear me?" "I can hear you." Her voice was faint but clear. "I can hear all of you. Is there anything you need? Anything we can do? Just stay." Clara looked at each of her sons in turn. Thomas, the eldest. William and James, the twins. Samuel, the quiet one. Daniel, the fearless one. Matthew, the peacemaker. "Stay with me, that's all I need." "We're not going anywhere," Thomas said. "None of us." "Good." Clara closed her eyes. "Your father is waiting for me. I can feel him. And Eleanor. They're both waiting." "Mama." "Don't cry. Don't you dare cry." Clara opened her eyes one last time. "I've had the most wonderful life. I started with nothing. Less than nothing. I was sold at an auction for $1. $1. And look what I built from that $1. Look at all of you. You built everything, Mama, Daniel said roughly. Everything we are is because of you. Everything you are is because you chose to become it. I just gave you the foundation. Clara smiled. Now go build something on it. Build something that lasts. Build something that matters. We will, Mama. Promise me. We promise. Clara closed her eyes again. The pain was fading. The light was growing brighter. She could see Jed now, standing in that golden light, waiting for her. He looked young again, strong again, the way he'd looked the day he'd stepped out of the shadows and changed her life forever. "Best dollar I ever spent," she whispered, and then she was gone. The headstone they placed beside Jed's was simple, just like she'd wanted. Clara Thornton McAllister, 1844 to 1916. Wife, mother, builder of legacies. But the real monument to her life wasn't made of stone. It was made of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It was made of a ranch that thrived for 100 years. It was made of a school that educated thousands of women. It was made of a breeding program that set the standard for excellence across the American West. It was made of a story that got told and retold across generations. The story of a woman who was sold for $1 and proved she was worth more than gold. The auction bride who built an empire. The barren woman who gave birth to a dynasty. The worthless widow who became the most valuable thing a broken man had ever found. Clara Thornton McAllister. She started with $1 and nothing else. She ended with 7 sons, 43 grandchildren, and a legacy that would echo through history. And it all began with a giant stepping out of the shadows, looking at a woman everyone had dismissed, and saying one word, $1. $1. One chance. One woman who proved that worth isn't measured by what others are willing to pay, but by what you're willing to build. That was her legacy. That was her story. And it was worth every penny.